This is a kind of a little known thing. We actually have a committee who leads the student ministry. I'm very much I am the face and head of student ministry, as I should be. Like, that's my job, right? I don't like leadership in vacuums. And this is also just a personal philosophy. Like, man, I could walk out of this room today on my drive home and get hit by a dump truck. You know what I mean? And I'm gone. You know, and so what happens in that vacuum?
Hey everyone, I am so glad that you're here. Go ahead, pull up a chair, and join us. This is Gather Around the Table.
So I'm Jonathan Gatewood. I am the student pastor here at FBC Fannin. I do several things beyond just student ministry, but student ministry is kind of like, well, it's my main heart, and it's what I was brought here to do, and so it's the main thing that I do. But I also I do stuff with college kids from time to time. I've handed most of that off. We have some great volunteers who do most of our college stuff now. I try to keep up those relationships though, but and then I do a lot with young adults. So once you get outside of college, once you get into like the single, dating, engaged, married, young kids even. And so like that 25 to 35 kind of range, I do a lot with them. And, Ann and I kind of started that whole ministry out of our house doing a small group. So, and I've also kind of backed off that some now too. I've kind of, Brian has taken on a lot of that, which you teach in that class some too. So, but that's kind of, my areas. And I also do guest experience now. So I kind of over, greeters and making sure that people get into the system on Sunday mornings and that kind of stuff. So you can find me out in the atrium before and after services a lot, doing that kind of stuff. So that's kind of another one of those low-key kind of jobs that somebody has to be over, so I'm over it because I was one of the most available people during the actual service hour. So I do a little bit of everything. A good broad mix there, just making sure people feel welcomed, but students is the priority thing there. I'm from Florida originally, so coming to Mississippi was a little bit outside of what I thought I was going to do with my life. I'm from a little bitty town in Florida called Baker, and it's just a little kind of one stoplight town. Everybody's at the game on Friday night kind of thing, small town though. I was born and raised there, man. We moved from Holt to Baker, but that's like moving from Pisgah to Flowood. I mean, like seriously, like it's not that far, I still went to the same school. It's a K through 12 school, so I spent all 13 years in one school with the same friends, So, so I came to Mississippi for Mississippi College back when they had a football program, which, is kind of discontinued now. But I came to play ball there, and that was just a kid chasing a dream. I made it 1 year and couldn't do it no more. But really, my heart in ministry started back in high school. I had a few opportunities, and I was given those opportunities because I was the church kid. My parent influence is huge. Like my mom is one of the biggest influences in my life and in my faith journey. And I had my grandfather is also he's a retired pastor now, but he would tell you they never really retire, they just kind of change what they do, but he's kind of retired though. He has to take care of my grandmother a lot now, so he doesn't get to do near as much as he used to. But those are probably the biggest two faith influences. And then I had a coach in high school as well. It's a huge influence on my faith. And so when I first came out of high school, I wanted to be like my coach. Like I loved sports. Like that was my thing. That was who I built my identity around in high school. And so when I came out of high school, I was like, man, I'm going to coach. Like I want to teach, I want to coach. And that's going to be my ministry to young men. Like I want to do like he did for me and just kind of be able to impact kids on a daily. So I kind of had a heart for student ministry without having a heart for student ministry, which is a kind of weird roundabout way of doing things. And part of that is because like I had seen my grandfather like struggle. And then And then like, just there was always that kind of question of like, well, like, do I want to do ministry? Do I want to have those extra eyes, on me and those kinds of things? So because when you grow up seeing that, you see what the demands are, on people, and it's a lot sometimes, just depending on person to person. But after my year of football, and God kind of made me hate football for a year because college football is just such a business, and the coaches at MC were not great at the time either. So, you go to a Christian school thinking you're going to have Christian football coaches, and that was not the case. And so it was very, very rough. Like I had better Christian coaches in high school than I did in college at a Christian school.
Yeah.
And so, which was crazy to me. But I blew off summer workouts to work at a Christian camp associated with Chick-fil-A. It's oh man, why can't I think of the name? But anyways, the camps that are associated with Chick-fil-A, and they have two kind of wind-shaped camps. And they have kind of two kind of sections. You can either go to specific locations to do wind shape, or they also have what they call connect, which is like they go around to their different churches and put on a camp. It's kind of like a souped up VBS, except we bring a whole lot more stuff. And so I spent the summer on the road. I went everywhere. I went Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky, Ohio,
That's cool.
Illinois, Missouri, and then Georgia. So all around the Southeast, and around not always the Southeast because Ohio's north, but just all around, and just every single week a new place. And we lived out of hotels, and just would go set up in these churches, and it was a really cool experience. I worked with third and fourth graders all summer, and I learned a lot that hey, I like being in ministry. I like doing these things. I don't know that I like kids. And so that was impactful for me though, because I said, this is what I want to do with my life. Like I want to do this with my life. And so when I came back to MC, I ended up not going back to football, and changing my major to Christian studies. And so I have an undergrad in a bachelor's of arts in Christian studies with a ministry focus. And so I ended up getting that degree, and then I'd work at local here at Lake Forest Ranch the following summer, and that got me to be able to have kids some weeks and students some weeks, and I found out I like the students way better. So that's when I was like, all right, yeah, students is my focus. And then in fall of 2017, I got an internship at First Baptist Jackson, and that's when my ministry journey began. And so counting those internship years now, since fall of 2017, man, it's been like almost 8 years now of ministry. With the last I've been here 3.5, and there was 2 at Jackson. So 5.5 of that has been full time. So and so I did that, and then like I said, I started at First Baptist Jackson. I was my whole time at First Baptist Jackson, the first 2 years I was there, we didn't have a pastor, and we also didn't have a student pastor. Now the entire time that I was at First Baptist Jackson, we didn't have a student pastor. And so those first 2 years when I was just interning, I worked for she's a bit of a legend in student ministry world in Mississippi. I worked for the interim person they brought in was Mallory McCoy, and she had done some associate work, but she kind of had been kind of a marquee person doing girls ministry across the state. She kind of came alongside a lot of different student pastors and helping them reach teenage girls in a very different, very real way. Did a lot of training, that kind of stuff. And so she kind of took over and was kind of spearheading the administration sides of things, and she would teach some, and she would bring in other people to teach some, and so I learned a lot about how to do ministry from her, man. Caring for people and being able to just meet needs, and also something that I really learned from Mallory, she would probably take a lot of pride in this, is not thinking too highly of yourself, not being too cool. Because she made me do some embarrassing things. things that are just against my personality. Just like, we would do these little skits, and then we would do these lip sync battles and just all this stuff that I just thought was so dumb in ministry. But the kids loved it, and that's why we did it. And she was like, "Well, we're going to do this because the kids will think it's awesome." And so while if I had just been making those decisions, I'd have just been like, no, I'm not doing that. But and so those kinds of things are the things I got to pick up from her. And then when I graduated in 2019, they brought me on as the associate, still fully planning to hire a student pastor for me to work under. And that just never happened. And so I was there from fall of 2019 all the way through 2020 and 2021. So about 2.5 years I was there. And then in January of 22, I came here to be the student pastor. So this is my first actual being the student pastor job, although I kind of functioned as a student pastor when I was at First Baptist Jackson. So a lot of big church experience. The churches are very different. First Baptist Jackson is very established, a lot of red tape, a lot of things to make, a lot more to get things going and moving over there. And just a lot of different, like very private school. So just even doing ministry to the kids over there was different than here, where it's like majority public school kids. Yeah. We still have a few, we have Hartfield kids and stuff like that. But I mean, it was all like, it was probably like, whereas it's like 75, 80% public school here, maybe even more, maybe up towards almost 90, like Hartfield's only like maybe 10% of who we have here. In First Baptist Jackson, you're talking about 90% prep,
Really?
JA.
I wouldn't have thought that, just right down the road, but I guess it.
And and now I still had kids from everywhere. Like I had a few, and that's at First Baptist Jackson. It is the Tri-County area. Like it is the whole metro. Like we had kids from Clinton, we had kids from Madison that went to MRA, went to Madison Central. We had 1 or 2 Germantown kids even. And then we'd have some Northwest kids that came. We had Pearl kids that came. We had, so just Ridgeland kids. So it was just all over the metro that we had kids and like coming. And so it was a good mixed group. But I never had so many kids. Like I think I counted at one time, it was like 16 different schools by the time you calculated. Man. And but you got to think too about Madison Central school system had 3 schools. Yeah. So really it's the Madison Central school system, but you have a middle school and then you have a 9th grade. Yeah. And then you have the high school. And so, but it was but that's still like the games and stuff to get to, man. Like it was a great thing that I was single when I was at First Baptist Jackson. Because literally every single night I was doing something. I bet. Like Monday, Tuesdays at ball games. Wednesday we had church. Thursday, Friday I was at ball games. Most of the time too on Saturday I would be doing something because that's when cross country ran. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be doing something always, and so unless I went home, So it was a lot. That's a big job for one person to do, and so I always had interns. I always had people around to help me, and that helped out a lot. And so moving here and kind of moving towards 3 main schools has really kind of helped me slow down some. I bet. And so that's been a good thing.
That's one thing I didn't think about really. I knew obviously it would be a good idea to show support and whatnot as a youth pastor or student pastor or whatever and go to those games and stuff. But I never thought about the idea of having a bunch of schools and having to try to make all that. Yeah. I imagine that probably wears you down quick.
Yeah. And when you get to these private school too, a lot of the kids do the same stuff. For here, Pisgah is your closest approximation to what JA and prep kind of would be. Because the kids that if you have an athlete that goes to prep, they're going to do at least 2 sports. Yeah. At least football, basketball, baseball, tennis, something. They're going to do more than one thing usually. Whereas my kids at Northwest, if they do something, that's the one thing that they do. And so it's very rare that they get into multiple things. Just because the school's so big, and so everybody's kind of got to carve out their niche. And so I was always at stuff, doing different things. And, but that is something that's incredible. for these kids. But I tell you what's better about showing up to those events. I mean, it's great for the kids know you're there and know that you cared enough to show up for them. What's better about those events are the parent interactions that you get when you show up. I got to sit and talk to more parents because, like, I mean, let's be real. Like on Sunday morning, Wednesday night, they got their own thing to get to. So if they walk their kid up to where we're coming, to the thing, which is very rare that I see a parent come up because, like, once, maybe like the first week when they're a seventh grader, they might walk them up and I get to introduce myself to them. But like after that, like the kid knows where they're going. Yeah. It's not like when children's ministry where the parents got to come check them in every single week and you can have those interactions. No, man, they just send the kid up there. Hey, you know where we're going? All right, we'll see you later, And so to foster those kinds of things, you have to show up to the places where the parents are going to be. And right, so they show up to their kids' stuff, know? And so if you can be there too, and man, athletic events are way better for that kind of stuff than like band events because you want to sit and be quiet and listen to the band event, or the theater production or whatever it is. But like, athletic events, right, it's not as important that we pay attention to every single little play, and so there's a lot more opportunities to just have conversations and ask what's going on in their lives and stuff like that. So that showing up for that is, like I said, it's really, honestly, it's less sometimes about the kids. I mean, obviously we want to show up for the kids and you want the kid to know, like, hey, I care enough. And especially if a kid asked me to show up, I'll try to do everything I can. A lot of kids will be like, oh yeah, oh dude, you showed up. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming, right? Whatever. But then there are a few kids who will come up to you and be like, hey, Jonathan, like, I have this thing going. And like, they want you to show up for that one, right? And so like, I try to be purposeful about that and saying, okay, all right, I mean, I can make this one, but I'm going to be at this one, all right? And they're like, okay, all right. And then they're like, a lot of times they'll text you, like, did you make it? Like, oh yeah, I'm here, And so like sometimes the kids really do care about that kind of stuff. Like I said, but for me, that's always been more about parent interaction and the parents, and also the parents seeing that I showed up too, and like, hey, like I cared about your kid enough to come. And also too, in those moments, a lot of times, like, you get to bridge a connection too, where it's like, if I come up to you after a game and say, all right, man, hey, great job or whatever, and like, their friends sometimes will be like, who was that dude? And so like, they get oh, that was my student pastor. He showed up and watched me play, and so like, it's funny how like so many things, and this is a ministry kind of standard thing in general. So many things will accomplish multiple purposes. If you're willing to just get out there, but and knowing all those different things makes it so much more worth it, right? So like, man, here's an evangelism opportunity in case, like, or an opportunity just to, get, hey, First Baptist Fannin, they care about us, so when they show up, and so maybe I should go check them out, if I want somebody to care about me. But also like it's parent ministry, which is crucial because of, the reality of that is there's only one of me. And every kid is a parent, and they will spend phenomenally more time. I get at maximum if your kid does every single little thing, and I get to talk to your kid and everything. Yeah. That's another thing too. When I got 70 kids on a Wednesday night, like I might get to talk to you, but it might just be like, hey Andrew, how's your week going, man? Or if I knew something was going on, oh man, how'd your game go, or how'd your performance go, or whatever, and so I might just get a few seconds with you like that. But then I got in the 30 minutes before and after a worship service, I'm trying to talk to every single kid, and so getting those moments in is kind of tough. And so like, again, like for me to say even that I get 3 hours a week with your kid is probably overestimating.
Yeah, that's a lot considering. I mean, Sunday, it's basically just Sunday school for youth, right?
Yeah.
And so do you, on Sunday mornings, do you get to see many of those people? Like, do you go around to those classes very often, or how do you?
Yes. So on Sunday morning, I try to, I'm in every single boys class.
Okay.
So we have a hangout time beforehand. And so same kind of thing. I'm trying to like just catch up with people, talk about, whatever's going on, all that kind of stuff, and just make sure that I'm present there with the kids and just having those kind of conversations. But then I will purposely go to each boys' Sunday school class and, say good morning, chat a little bit, tell them the announcements for the week, hey, here's what's going on. And Kayla, my associate, will do the same thing on the girls' side. Now, if one of us is not here, we'll do both. And I used to do both every single week. But it ended up me being, like 20 minutes late for the class that I was supposed to be in or something like that. And I'm actually the co-teacher right now for the 7th, 8th grade boys Sunday school class. So, so I'm in there every single week. And then I'm also like the backup if say Mr. Eric or is out for the week and the 11th and 12th boys, I'll go and fill in for him and those kind of things. So I rotate around some.
Is you're being the co-teacher for 7th, 8th grade, is that out of necessity because you don't have enough people to teach, or is that more you just really want to make sure you're in the class teaching? Or it could be both.
It's some of both. Like I do enjoy it. I do enjoy being there with the 7th grade boys. It's always harder to establish a relationship with the middle schoolers than it is the high schoolers. And I say that just because that's personality for me. Like I'm not a super goofy person, and I've yet to not meet a goofy middle schooler. You know what I mean? Like they're funny. But they come in so timid and shy, and just doing their own thing. And so and they don't know yet, that, hey, wait, Jonathan cares about me, or hey, he's going to want to have these conversations or how to even act sometimes in student ministry, because in kids, and this is not a bad thing, but in kids, everything is so structured. Just because that's kids ministry, right? Dude, you got to have that structure, right? And a lot of times there's a bit of a disconnect that happens between 6th graders and even a 3rd grader. There's so much maturity that's happened in that gap. And so a lot of times they look at children's ministry sometimes as beneath them. Mm-hmm. And so when they come into student ministry, they still kind of have a little bit of that checked out mentality. And so it's very interesting to see them come in and say, hey, all right, this person cares, and oh, I do need to pay attention. This isn't the same thing. I do have to sit in here and actually participate in this conversation, and those kinds of things. So I like being in there for that reason. I like being in there to help foster the just the student ministry mentality, that we have, and just to get to really form a relationship, because I can form a relationship with them. Later on, when they're high schoolers, it'll be easier to go deeper into those kinds of things. But it is mainly though out of necessity that we, just because we have great volunteers. We also have great Sunday school classes from an adult perspective, and so asking somebody to give up their Sunday morning Sunday school time to come and go into a Sunday school class with some 7th grade boys who may or may not pay attention. Can be tough. And so I do have some prospects coming down the way. It's just a matter of getting them kind of plugged in, but we're always needing some Sunday school teachers and those kinds of things. And so, we try to make it to where our Sunday school teachers have a month on, month off kind of rotation. And so that if, I'm teaching in the month of, August, and then I get to take them with the September off to go be part of the Sunday school class that I want to be a part of and get some adult interaction and those kind of things. And then I'll be back in the month of October, right? So that's kind of how most of our Sunday school classes do it. But I have a few guys teachers who they just want to they just want to be there with the boys, and so that's kind of their thing. So it just depends. It's teacher to teacher. But yeah, so some of both, but I would like to get somebody else in there because I like the flexibility of being able to sit in different classes every week or fill in where I need to. Because I fill in with the link some, I fill in each single one of the things. I've even filled in with Miss Deb McCaskill in the He Is Risen class. And so I like having the freedom to bounce around a little bit more and just kind of be where I'm needed versus always having to be in one spot.
That's awesome.
And so, but I do enjoy, like I said, being there with the 7th grade boys is a good time.
The Sunday school class for the kids, how do y'all decide the curriculum and stuff for that?
Okay. So this is a kind of a little known thing. We actually have a committee who leads the student ministry. I'm very much I am the face and head of student ministry, as I should be. That's my job, right? I don't like leadership in vacuums. And this is also just a personal philosophy. Man, I could walk out of this room today on my drive home and get hit by a dump truck. You know what I mean? And I'm gone. And so what happens in that vacuum, right? What happens if every decision, everything, which now it's better because Kayla's here, so she would know a lot about that kind of stuff. But prior to having her is when I set this committee up, because I was just like, well, like in the event that something happens to me, or, like you never know how long you get to serve at some place, like now I've been here going on, almost 4 years now, right? And that's fantastic, but like student ministry, I know for me, this is going to be off topic a little bit, but like, I know for me, student ministry is not my end all be all, and so like what is coming down the road, when is that coming? And I don't know those kinds of things. I'm very happy here. I love First Baptist Fannin. I love serving it. Like, this is my church. I love this church. But at the same time, when God calls, we go.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many student pastors who unintentionally, when they left a church, wrecked the student ministry because they were doing everything. And they were doing everything because it was their job, right? And sometimes you get in context and situations where where it's expected of them to do everything. Like, if there are some church contexts, this is not our church context, I should preface that, where it's kind of expected, like, why are you asking us to do this? Isn't this your job? And we don't have a church context like that. Our people are great. They love to serve. But I like that plural, but having people who are in on the thinking, right? In on the vision and the stuff that we're like, and that's important too. We gotta cast some vision. And I like these big decisions to come from a plurality, because then more people know like the reasoning behind why we're doing what we're doing. So we have a committee that's made up of parents and volunteers. Some are both, actually. They're both parent and volunteer, and they represent our three major schools too. Like they represent Northwest, Pisgah, and Hartfield.
Gotcha.
And so when we meet, we try to meet at least once a month. Sometimes more if it's like a big decision that we're really thinking on and processing. And so they decide a lot of things. Like we evaluate events as well. I think that's a huge part of that too. So when we do something, we say, we spent this amount of money. Was it worth this amount of money? This particular part of this activity, did we like that? Did we want to change that? Do we want to do whatever? Because I always have some of them at every event as well that serve. And then also, they're also supposed to be like listening to their children too.
Yeah.
Or their Sunday school class, and saying, and the Sunday school class is talking about, camp, and they did this. All right, what are the things they're saying? Did they say they didn't like something? Did they say they liked something? Like, so it's to have more ears on the ground too. And so we have a representation, like I said, of every different culture within our student ministry. And so that's part of that. But then also too, because when it comes to like deciding the curriculum, money's also a factor. And so we evaluate all those kinds of things. We evaluate the quality of the content, the teachability of the content, and then how much it costs.
Yeah.
Because, and there's a variety of different things. There's sometimes really cheap content that's not great. It's weak as water. And we end up talking about the same thing every single week, right? There's really good content that may be, all right, it's okay priced, but it's up here and we need it to be here, right? Or our teachers are looking at this and going, man, this is way too much. Like, I'm having to replan this thing in order to get it teachable, right? Well, that's not serving us, and that's overworking our volunteers too. And so we want something that can just kind of be plug and play kind of thing. And so when we evaluate that, I give them samples from several different. We just changed our provider for our Sunday school content last year. We were using one company, and we decided to change to, no, I won't disparage the company, but and because there's a lot of people that do that company, but we just changed to a company called YM360, and we do a lot with YM360. YM360 is our Generate camp. They're the ones who put that on. And we got a whole bunch of extra things. So we got a YM360 Plus, which is a subscribe kind of thing. It's like a yearly subscription. And we get our curriculum. We also get ministry to parents. And so if you get our weekly newsletters, at the very bottom of that newsletter, there'll be a parenting blog. And so it gives you kind of just, hey, here's what we're talking about. And it comes with a parenting video, an article, and kind of like an activity that you can do. And all three of those things can help you work for this month on this particular thing. All right, how do I resolve conflict with my teenager? How do I help my teenager to have good friendships? And so those are kind of designed to help come alongside those parents. And so that's really called Ministry of Parents. And so we get both those things. We get some trainings, we get some small group materials, all that kind of stuff's wrapped up in that YM360 Plus package. And so we went with that package for that reason, because we got more for less, really. And so it's a great bang for buck with that. But that's all taken into account with our committee. And that committee does several different things. Like I said, beyond just doing small group material or Sunday school material, they're evaluating camp. And like, okay, and this year it came up, like, did we like Generate? Are we getting to a size now where we have to start thinking about doing our own camp? And those kinds of questions. We are adding this year a spring break mission trip. And so we're going to go to Atlanta this year. And so they evaluated that of just, okay, hey, here's several different places. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What's the goal? We just rebranded, right? We were Second Mile students and now we're First Fannin students. They were huge in that rebrand of like helping, okay, what is the vision that we have for our student ministry? I cast most of that, but there were a lot of things that they tweaked, saying, okay, hey, well, we actually want to see this too, right? And so I like when it comes to that committee and those kind of decisions, like I'm the driving force behind most of it, but it allows a plurality of leadership to say, okay, hey, here's some things that we want to change, and it also allows kind of to a dispersing responsibility too. So that, when something comes up and, a lot of times it's kind of, just how people work, like people will have an issue with something, but don't ever talk to you about that issue, And so having multiple people who made that decision, you can't say, well, Jonathan just thinks this, or he favors these people. And it's like, no, we asked, And so that's also just a good thing, It's just like, okay, hey, there were several people who were in on this decision. And that's just good leadership in general. And so that's who makes those decisions about a lot of that. Like I said, the ultimate decision relies with them. And they have bumped me several times of like, okay, this is the direction I thought we should go. And they're like, I don't think so. We don't think that's right. And so there are several times that where I've had to stop and say, okay, all right, well, let's reevaluate it.
That's great to have too.
And so those kinds of things, and they always have good insight, things to add. And like with the vision, like there were certain things that were like, okay, well, we were Second Mile for so long, like we should keep Second Mile something, right? And so we still kept Second Mile in our theme verses, and we kept Second Mile worship. So our Wednesday night's titled Second Mile Worship now, because we wanted to keep that nod to who we were for so long, and moving towards those kind of things. So there's, like I said, they add a lot of vision into that too, and like I said, a lot of it's too just ears and just hearing, hey, what are the kids saying, and in different places and stuff. So
thanks for talking and stuff. So
yeah, man.
Hopefully we'll get to do this again soon.
Yeah.
It's good. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.